Feeling that momentum, with some towns facing a daunting challenge as the business that's kept them going for decades pulls up stakes. Brian Chung went to one such town in.
Tell us what you're looking for from Tyson in this lawsuit.
Really limited in what we can and can't say, but this story is so much bigger.
What do Trump's tariffs, Tyson chicken, and a crumbling economy have in common? They all just collided in a political economic pileup that's leaving rural America in the dust. And nobody's cleaning up the feathers. This isn't just about factory closures. It's about how protectionist policies meant to revive the American working class actually sent it to the unemployment line, with a severance check and a link to a job training site that doesn't work. So let's cut through the campaign slogans and corporate spin and follow the trail of economic carnage that started with tariffs and ended with Tyson carving up small-town America. Let's dig in. Part 1, the meat of the matter, Tyson plants. Go dark. In 2023, Tyson Foods, the largest meat processor in America, employed more than 120,000 workers across 100-plus facilities in the U.S. By mid-2025, over a dozen of those plants had shut down, and 5,000-plus jobs vanished from the map. Why? A brutal combination of spiking production costs, shrinking profit margins, and, you guessed it, Trump's tariff revival. In 2025, Trump reimposes and escalated tariffs across the board. Steel, 25% to 50%. Aluminum, 10% to 30%. China, EU, and Mexico, new 10% blanket tariffs. Packaging, farm equipment, and food imports were hit hard. Tyson relies heavily on global supply chains, steel for machines, aluminum for packaging, imported feed ingredients, refrigerated logistics. The cost shock was instant. Rather than build more in the U.S., Tyson made a colder calculation. Shut it down, move it elsewhere. Example, Perry, Iowa. Tyson pork plant closure, 300 jobs lost. Knoll, Missouri. Tyson chicken plant gone, 500 unemployed in a town of 2,000. Dexter, Missouri. Poultry plant closed, 683 jobs cut. For many of these towns, Tyson was the economic backbone. The closures were like cutting oxygen from the local economy. But a few thousand layoffs are just the beginning. What happens when the factories go dark, but the grocery store stays open? Spoiler, it doesn't stay open for long. Part 2, the domino effect, towns collapse. Let's talk ripple effect. When a Tyson plant shuts down, it doesn't just kill a job. It kills the diner across the street, the grain mill up the road, the truck leasing office, the daycare, the school budget, and eventually, the soul of the town. Here's how that plays out. Grain suppliers. Tyson was often their number one customer. Contracts canceled overnight. Family farms, independent growers left with barns full of unsellable poultry and millions in loans. Local schools. In Dexter, school districts lost property tax funding and canceled extracurricular programs. Retail businesses. In Perry, the town saw a 50% drop in grocery sales within weeks. These aren't numbers, they're livelihoods. In Perry, where 60% of Tyson's workforce were immigrants and refugees, the collapse didn't just mean unemployment. It meant food insecurity, housing loss, and an identity crisis for an entire community. Even churches and food banks couldn't keep up. One food pantry reported a 3 times increase in demand within 30 days of the Tyson closure. And no, there wasn't a new factory coming to replace it. There wasn't a new trade deal to bring jobs back. There was just silence. So if towns are collapsing, where's all the money going? Let's zoom in on the boardroom, where Tyson's top brass are sipping champagne and cashing government checks. Part 3, winners and chickens. Follow the money. Donnie King, Tyson's CEO, made $12 million in compensation in 2024. That's over 300 times the average Tyson worker's salary. At the same time, Tyson pocketed $3 billion in federal subsidies and disaster relief, spent $2 million lobbying Congress in 2025 alone, was pushing hard to weaken OSHA regulations, environmental standards, and tariff enforcement mechanisms. Yes, while closing plants, laying off thousands, and abandoning entire communities, Tyson was collecting taxpayer money and lobbying for even more favors. And the farms? They weren't just betrayed, they were set up to fail. Tyson had pressured small farmers to expand production under contract. When the shutdowns hit, dozens of farms in Missouri and Arkansas faced repossession. Some destroyed their flocks. Others filed for bankruptcy. One poultry grower, Sean Hinkle, said, "Tyson told us to build, then they shut the door. Now I'm facing foreclosure on land my family's had for generations." But let's talk about how this all hits you. Because you're not just watching this from the sidelines, you're paying more every time you walk into a grocery store. Part 4, Chicken Inflation. How tariffs hit your plate. You've probably felt it. Grocery bills are climbing like a SpaceX rocket. Why? Because tariffs don't just hit corporations. They hit every link in the food chain. Steel and aluminum tariffs raise the cost of food processing and packaging. Tariffs on agricultural imports made foreign alternatives pricier. Transportation costs skyrocketed with higher input costs and fewer logistics options. Federal Reserve 2025 report, food manufacturing costs are up 6.8% year over year. Tyson's wholesale prices increased 10 to 15%. School lunch programs in Kansas and Arkansas cut back protein portions. Grocery stores in small towns saw chicken sales drop 40% in some cases. And yet, despite all this hardship for working families, the steel industry, the so-called winner of the tariffs, is facing a backlash. U.S. steel prices are now 35% higher than global averages. That's pricing out car manufacturers, appliance makers, food processors like Tyson, which brings us full circle. Steel tariffs are making it impossible for downstream industries to survive. Still think tariffs build American jobs? Let's take a look at how they've systematically broken them instead. Part 5. The Great Retreat. Tariffs build nothing. This was supposed to be the comeback story of a generation. But here's the real story. It's 2018 to 2020. First Trump tariff wave cost the U.S. 75,000 manufacturing jobs, Fed study. 2025 tariffs already contributed to over 5,000 Tyson layoffs. No new Tyson plants have opened in the U.S. since the tariffs. Instead, Tyson is expanding in Thailand, China, and the Netherlands, investing in non-union southern U.S. plants, avoiding union-heavy Midwest states like Iowa and Indiana. This is called network optimization in the boardroom. Workers just call it betrayal. The WARN Act, Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification, requires 60 days notice before mass layoffs. But in many towns, Tyson gave far less. In Knoll, Missouri, notice came just weeks before closure. In Perry, Iowa, some workers learned the truth from local rumors, not HR emails. And it gets worse. Housing markets collapsed. Mortgage defaults spiked. Churches reported 50% increases in financial aid requests. Sheriff's offices noted upticks in crime and domestic violence. This isn't just economic data. This is social collapse. And while American towns go under, Tyson's betting on foreign soil. Let's close with a look at the real winners in this globalized game. Part 6. Global growth, domestic decay, the final betrayal. Tyson's latest announcements? new facilities in China, Thailand, and the Netherlands, targeting Asia-Pacific markets where tariffs are lower and labor is cheaper. 0 new plants in the U.S. since 2023. This after Trump's repeated promises that tariffs would bring the factories back. In reality, Trump's tariff playbook followed a predictable cycle, even dubbed by economists as TACO threat: announce, compromise, overturn, result, uncertainty. Businesses don't expand in uncertainty. They retreat, they consolidate, they lay off. And companies like Tyson use the chaos as cover to downsize and offshore. The kicker? By the end of 2025, economists estimate over 10,000 job losses tied directly to food industry consolidation. Rural towns in Iowa, Missouri, Indiana, Arkansas, Kansas, and Pennsylvania facing massive economic deficits. And tariff retaliation from Europe and China potentially escalating the crisis further. Tyson isn't just restructuring. It's abandoning America's working class. While Washington hands out subsidies and Wall Street applauds, Trump's tariffs were supposed to rebuild America's industrial might. Instead, they raised costs, slashed jobs, spiked grocery bills, and shattered the very communities they claim to protect. Meanwhile, Tyson executives get richer, global expansion accelerates, and working families are left to pick up the pieces. So the next time you hear America first, ask who's second. Because for a lot of families in Perry, Knoll, and Dexter, America didn't show up at all. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and remember, if you don't follow the money, you're the one being played.